Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the minutes from September 2nd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 4, any communication from staff? All right, move into the main course of the agenda. Item 5.1, a revised site plan for .9, generally located at 1539 North Andover Road.
The site plan before you tonight is an amendment to an existing plan at the .9 restaurant to add some storage space and expansion of the kitchen on the west side of the building, essentially the back side of the building. The materials are partially some siding for a walk-in freezer and shipping container painted to match like the existing shipping containers are used around the site as part of the building palette of materials. Staff has looked at this. We've talked with the consultants and the owners a bit about it. Some issues were brought up about parking, about sidewalk access, but we think we've come to some solutions for that in that there is a sidewalk that leads to the north out and around the building that would lead a person into the north entrance into the building. And the parking spaces in that area could be restriped to add a little extra space on the furthest north parking space that would be adjacent to the shipping container kitchen expansion. That was a comment that PEC and their crew brought to us, but we think we've worked through all of those with the owner, and staff's supportive of the plan.
So they'll be issuing a revision to this to pick up that change.
Right, we could pick those up in the construction doc submittals.
Sure.
And I mean, since it's already behind the screening that we already approved for the rest of the site, and you guys can figure it out with, I mean, because there's entry, because you can get on from the north side, right?
Yes,
And then also from the south side.
yes.
What is the rule, I guess? Are we circumventing a rule here? Like, what should it?
What we don't want is for a person to have to walk through a parking lot to get to a building entrance, or down an access aisle in this case to get to a building entrance.
And are we going to be removing at least one spot then, or no?
No,
Is it
no,
just taking
all the
sidewalk?
existing spaces would remain. The new shipping container location would be where there's an existing sidewalk today that essentially wraps 360 degrees around the building.
Yeah, and the discussion about reducing the width was, per the UDM, there's typically at least a 24-inch wide mow strip. I mean, really, you're just worried about that's a solid wall that someone opens their door and you're going to be smacking that thing, or someone's going to be parked too far south because they want to leave room for their door. So that was, the concern of the striping, but the minimum width, to Les's point, is 8.5. These are 9, which is typical, but you can basically buy 2 feet by restriping those, and then you give yourself a little bit of cushion for whoever's in that last space. It's still tight. If you drive a big truck, I just probably wouldn't park in one of those spots, but there's at least room to do it. That would still meet UDM requirements from what it sounds like.
And it does look like we have a representative here because I see some nodding in the audience.
I just like to show meetings.
Project,
So I'm here for more support. If there's questions.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to point out we do have a representative here, so if we did have any questions, but. And you said it's gonna be painted. Isn't one of the, does it matter that they're gray or white as far as the?
It matched the closest, that one with the.
Sorry. If you're gonna speak, could you go to the podium and? No, you're fine. Just state your name and who you're with.
Good evening, Chris Haney with Haney and Associate Architects. So the plan for the shipping container where it ties in would basically, we'd paint it to match that same kind of dark gray color that's on the one it's attaching to with a 0.9 logo on the north side there. So in hope of it kind of just downplays and blends into the rest of the building. And it basically just removes that portion of the cedar fence that's there currently. And like Les was saying, it just sits right on the sidewalk is the hope. That was a good catch to maybe tighten up the parking stalls to buy us a little bit more wiggle room for door swing. It's just tight sight and need for growth.
That's good, right? Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I move to approve with the conditions that staff has set forth, the revised site plan for point 9 generally located at 1539 North Andover Road.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5.2, a sign plan for 2035 North Andover Road for Jumpstart.
Mr. Hain, thanks for your attendance. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairperson, the plan before you tonight is just for a new sign for the jump start at 21st and Andover Road. They're desiring to go to a taller sign within the 20-foot minimum height for the district. They have scaled things appropriately to meet the maximums for the sign surface area. It is an existing location, so we've worked with the sign designer to come up with a plan for landscaping. The existing sign base is in the pavement, so we couldn't, without removing some pavement, have the landscaping adjacent to the sign base, but they can go out in the area adjacent to the pavement and meet the minimums for the required landscaping for a sign base.
When you say that, I guess in one of the pictures, I see the whatever, call 911 if you smell gas pipes, the white and orange one right there. Maybe not in that picture. That one right there. Is that like a gas pipe there? Are they going to have any issues with the landscaping there? And then is that a sprinkler rock or is that a real rock?
Great question for the applicant.
Oh, we have an applicant here as well. Great.
Hello, my name is Anders. I'm with Ron Sign Company. That is an existing rock. The owners have suggested that they wanted to try to spread their landscaping out along Andover Road. And they sent us a rough mock view where they have 3 different locations where they add some additional rocks, and there's another 2 sections with rocks down. But like I told them that the city wants it pretty much around the sign. And then when I sent their plans off to staff, they kind of supported what I said, that it's predominantly supposed to be around the sign.
So in some of the renderings, it shows plantings on the south side of the sign. Then on the plan, it just shows it on the north and east. So is the plan view
added
accurate?
that site plan you're seeing now was the last one I added to it. When you look at the rendering and it shows the plant work, and before it was before I had talked with the city about, hey, that's cement and pavement. How are we supposed to plant there?
So this is what's proposed.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't have a definite, I'm still trying to work with the customer about what they are going to plant. They've been adamant that other people have put in signs and not added landscaping to it. They mostly referenced the new Casey's that's just north of Kellogg on Andover. But I called in and talked with Julie and had her kind of go over the case with me, because I figured there was most likely a landscaping plan, that they just hadn't finished planting everything that was going to go in with it. And then she confirmed that.
And then who's the owner? Is it Phil or is it Bill then?
I believe Bill King owns the property
He does.
and Jumpstart is the lessee.
So who are you speaking of when?
I'm speaking for Jumpstart.
So at some point there would be a follow-up plan identifying what those,
Mhm.
what the plantings will be.
When I talked with Julie, she mentioned that there's a possibility that if you guys did approve the sign, that they could internally by the staff approve the landscaping plan, which would be my plan to move forward and figure out what I can get Jumpstart to agree to plan. I do have a question, since you guys all seem fairly knowledgeable about landscaping. If you have any suggestions for evergreen that don't get that tall, their major concern is that once they start planting evergreen bushes around there, it's going to grow higher, and then you're not going to be able to see the rock of the base.
There are evergreen varieties that grow as low as 3 or 4 inches. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty easy selection. You may remember that a third of those plantings have to be in evergreen material.
Mhm.
And then 20 feet tall is the Casey's across the street. Does it have a sign that's close to that height? I don't think it's that tall.
No, I think it's probably
just-
around 15 at top.
This sign was originally taller, correct? And then it's been reduced down. I thought I remember seeing a version of this that exceeded height, and now it's been pared back a little
I
bit.
filed for a variance for 25 feet.
Okay.
Because the standard for Jumpstart is the dual pole that has the angled caps in the middle of the ID cabinet at the top, and that's what Phil Neard wanted. Well, with 20 feet, I wasn't going to have more than like 9 inches of clearance under the bottom of the boards, so we filed for the variance to see if we can get an extra 5 just to give that clearance underneath, and then they denied that. So I went in and then kind of shortened up the ID cabinet as much as I could.
Who denied the variance?
Board of Zoning Appeals.
What is that in the top of the sign in relation to the top of the pumps?
I think it may clear it by like the top of the canopy.
Yeah.
I think the canopy is around 19. I think that I want to say that's kind of the average I've found with different canopies from the different between Jumpstart, Quick Shops, and Dillon's that I've done throughout the state. 19 is kind of your average at the top.
So without any variance, this is acceptable as far as
Yes,
sign goes?
this is at the maximum height.
And then weird question, just being the consumer. Why aren't you facing it?
At an angle, like 45 in it.
Maybe something like, I guess I'm just trying to think of like turnpike traffic coming down 21st. They're not going to see it, right? If I mean, if I'm coming from east to west and, you know, on this picture here, if I'm coming from the east,
Mhm.
they're not going to see it compared to the Casey's sign across the street.
As the graphic designer and the guy who does the majority of the permits for our office, if I'm on a corner lot, I want to 45 it for that purpose. Phil Near is not a fan of the 45 signs, and he feels like he's going to get more traffic off the Andover Road, and that's how we'd rather advertise it.
Any other thoughts or questions, comments, motions?
So are we gonna wait for a landscaping plan to come?
We're comfortable to do staff approval of the landscape plan that would have to be a part of the submittal for the sign permit.
I think a motion could include an acknowledgement on the site plan that the landscaping is only on the north and south sides, because typically it would be wrapped, and so that could be part of the motion.
North.
North and east.
Sorry, north and
North and
east
east side.
sides of the sign.
And we'll still have the nice stone around the base, not like the base currently looks right now.
Yeah, no, it'll be the faux stone that you can kind of see right there.
Mr. Interim Chair.
Yes, Homer.
I move to approve the monument site plan for Jumpstart, generally located at 2035 North Andover Road. Upon approval of staff approving the landscape design on the north and east side of said sign. Does that work? You think?
Works for me.
Does that work for you guys, Dylan, Les?
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5.3, a site plan for Emprise Bank ATMs and Canopy, generally located at 209 East Founders Parkway. Mr. Mangus.
As a part of the construction of Founders Parkway, the city acquired some right of way from the Emprise Bank. And in those acquisitions, the bank pointed out to us that the configuration of the new roadway and their driveways made their existing ATMs unusable. And we negotiated a deal where the Emprise would move their ATM and now ITM onto some remnant land that the city had adjacent to the east. There's been a lot of back and forth with the owner, the architect, two civil engineers on this plan. The plans for the roadway are not 100% complete yet. Those plans for the roadway also include some lighting and some landscaping, which kind of play into this particular case because the contractor who submitted this site plan chooses not to provide landscaping or lighting to the site. He says it's not a parking lot. It's not required to have lighting or landscaping. We contend that our site plan review criteria require ATM queuing lanes to be treated as a parking lot. They're supposed to have perimeter screening. They're supposed to have adequate lighting. As far as the ATM configuration, as far as the pavement, we've worked that out with the site civil. No problem. We believe that our project lighting, road project lighting, will be adequate to light the paved area, but we don't have a final design for that. We should have it within the next 90 days, I'd say. We intend to bid that work in the first quarter of 2026. So it's in the design stages right now. I just don't have anything that I can show you on that. So if there is discussion, and unfortunately I don't see a representative here from the applicant to speak for themselves, I think as staff, we're comfortable with the lack of a lighting plan, because we'll be generating that plan ourselves. As far as the refusal on landscaping, we just think there's no grounds for that opinion. It's a parking lot, needs to be screened, just like all others are.
So my initial question would be, so we as site plan could disapprove it. Would that then later make them, when they go to approve it, a new fee, new permit cost? As opposed to, I guess, what's the difference between that and then tabling it? Because we just saying, since the road hasn't been designed yet, if I'm them, I don't really know, maybe what I would use for landscaping. So would it be better to table it until, at least a month from now, till we can get at least a representative here? Or just flat disapprove it and then they have to come back after said time?
This is another one of those projects that it is just that landscaping component that I think staff could handle that discussion with the owner, with the message from the site plan review committee that the parking lot perimeter landscaping is required. It's a pretty simple design. A third evergreen materials, minimum 3 feet high.
Yeah, and Les and I
Solid
were,
screening.
Les and I were talking a little bit before, right now the back of their curb is on the right of way line. Or appears to be, if that's the line I'm looking at correctly on there. I think there's not much room to pinch those drives down a little bit. Ideally you've got about a 4 foot wide planting bed to get some shrubs or grasses or something in there. You may be able to pull that curb line down south just a little bit, and then your plantings would basically be planted on that right of way line. So they would bleed a little bit into the right of way, but that could be a potential concession of your founder's designer would want to account for, well, I'm not going to push my sidewalk then all the way up to the right of way line because I need to leave a buffer. But it may be hard to get basically, unless you got rid of the bypass lane, which they have, looks like 2 ATM lanes and then a bypass lane. So you could either get rid of the bypass lane, you have tons of space to do plantings.
The bypass lane is required.
It is.
Yes. So
And what about water?
in your purview, you can take exception to your own guidelines. Your guidelines say that the right of way shouldn't be used for required landscaping, but we've taken exception to that before. The .9 project has landscaping between the building and the sidewalk.
In the optometrist, they have some trees that are
Yes.
in the right of way that didn't
Yes.
fit on that side.
As we move towards the new trend of pushing buildings closer to the street and the sidewalk, we'll see this more often.
And then how does it get watered? Are they going to put in sprinklers or?
It would require irrigation, yes. Being on the right of way, we will irrigate the right of way with our road project.
So they wouldn't have to worry about the irrigation. It would be city, but then,
Not necessarily, but they do have some grass areas that are not on the right of way that they would be responsible for.
you're talking to the guy that has the second worst yard in my neighborhood. So I'm just glad I'm not the worst yard, right? But at the same time, when I've seen us, plan site plans and stuff that people don't have sprinkler, it just ends up being dead bushes. So, it's interesting how they would water all that grass and stuff out there, being away from the building, right?
Right. The existing building, as you know, is well landscaped, well maintained, irrigated. There's no reason that that system couldn't be extended across the parking lot.
I mean, generally, I like the idea of having some sort of screening there. Just to me, Founders is critical roadway infrastructure in terms of Kellogg expansion, but there's a lot of landscape enhancements through the rest of it. And, Founders is brand new road. This is going to be brand new, assuming it's going to be there for a long time. So sometimes we've made exceptions when you've got an existing site. I mean, we just looked at one where there was a sign and you say, well, do you rip something out just to put plantings on the south side of the sign? Or, with this being a new road and a new site improvement, I like the idea of finding some way to accommodate screening of that, even if that meant using the right of way a little bit or finding a way to do that. I think I like that better than just saying, don't screen it. Let's find some solution where you can make that a little more attractive.
And is that sorry, Kevin, but for the layperson, second worst in the neighborhood, would you do that with like a berm, or what would your example of screening, that acceptable screening, be?
I mean, that's probably a hedgerow. You could do grasses or just some low shrubs there along that side. Because it's got to be continuous
Yes.
screening along a parking lot. So, I mean, you're looking at, some boxwoods or some low ornamental grasses or whatever, something that gets a couple feet tall, and just line that whole thing along the north side of the drive. I don't know that elsewhere on Founders we have a lot of low plantings. Maybe in some medians, when you get out in the Heritage, there's some median planting, so you may be able to. They could pull some of that aesthetic if they wanted to, but I mean
We have a great planting palette on our 4 Founders Parkway projects that they could easily select from to make the 3-foot minimum height and show some continuity to the road landscape project.
And again, staff would be comfortable walking them through that.
Yes. The contractor is anxious to get started on this project. We just found out about this 3 weeks ago.
So this construction obviously comes before the road, right? Is there anything we need to, I guess maybe it's not a site plan deal. Okay. Scratch that question.
I think it's their desire to have this ATM up and running before the road project starts next spring.
Okay.
Do you think they would be open to reducing some of those widths at all to be able to, because as it's drawn right now, any screening there, 100% of it has to be in the right of way.
Yes. I don't think there's much room to reduce lane widths.
So do you have any heartburn knowing the projected street section of Founders of having basically a 4-foot strip that's fully in the right of way and still getting a sidewalk and not having it too close to your curb? Or I guess, are we confident there's enough space to
We've
fit
got
all that?
essentially the same scenario with the shopping center across the street. We've bought right away all the way up to the back of their parking lot curb.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the site plan for Emprise Bank ATMs and Canopy, generally located at 209 East Founders Parkway, Andover, Kansas, as long as they meet staff's requirements for the landscaping and buffer that we have talked about.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any other items from staff or members of the committee?
Sorry, I said buffer. Should I have said screen?
You said screening and buffer, didn't you?
Did I? Okay. Just make
For
sure. it's-
UDM requirements, not staff requirements, but. Any other staff or committee items prior to adjournment? Okay, motion to adjourn,
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn. Oh,
Second.
yeah, go ahead.
motion and a second. So adjourned.